Okay. So I'm recording Photoshop now. I'm going to make a new project. And one thing I want to do here, since I'm making the background for my animation, is I want to make the background, I'm going to animate the background moving rather than the character moving through the scene. Different animations use different approaches, but that's what we're going to demonstrate here. And so what I want to have is a background that is much larger than the scene I have in Adobe Animate, mostly in terms of the horizontal direction, but you might also want it to be larger in terms of the vertical direction if you want to animate up and down a little bit. So you can kind of do different things with that. You could even, animate in a circle. There's lots of different ways you could approach it. But I'm just going to do something very simple, just as a demonstration. And so what I'm going to do is my animation is 1280 by 720, which is just regular HD since I'm using the projector and I don't have as much resolution. But your animation should be 1920 by 1080. And so when you make your background, it should be at least 1080 in the height parameter, and it should be much wider in the width parameter. Probably if 1920 is around 2000, you probably want around 4000 pixels at least, maybe more. So when I click new file, I'm gonna just make my own preset. So I'm gonna go to pixels over here, and then for the height, I'm just gonna do 720. You might want to do a larger height again if you want a little space, but I'm just gonna stick with that for now. And then for the width, I'm actually just gonna do the math here. So I know that the width of my scene is 1280. Depending on how far you want to animate or how much stuff you want to have, you could multiply this by 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, whatever you want to do. But I'm just going to do a little asterisk. So I'm hitting Shift 8 to make an asterisk for a multiplication sign. And I'm just going to do 2 for my demo. And then when I hit Enter, it's just going to do that math for me. So that's a really quick way to do that. And then I'm going to drag my layers over here so I can use my layers. And I've got my little background. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on the actual visuals here, just because most of what I'm demonstrating is putting these programs together. But I will do a couple things just as an example. And then one thing stylistically that I'm going to do is I'm going to do a kind of more detailed style. So one of the things that is quite common, especially in like Japanese animation or anime, is you'll see the backgrounds are often much more detailed or even more realistic paintings, but they are just one image that stays the same, versus the characters or objects that are animated on top of them could be like a more simplified style of animation. That's just an aesthetic choice. You can really do whatever you want. You can have the background look exactly like the foreground. You can have, all sorts of, you can really approach it any way you want to. But I'm going to do a couple things to kind of set this up. I'm going to make 2 folders to start. I'm going to have a background, and then I'm going to have a sort of foreground. And in the background, I'm just going to have like space, since my animation takes place in space. And then in the foreground, I'm going to have the surface of the moon that the character is walking on. So I'm going to start with the background, and I'm going to add a couple layers in here. And one thing that I like to do if I'm trying to just, create a background is I like to use a lot of filters and textures and stuff like that. That way I can add a lot of detail without taking up too much time. So I'm going to hit D for default colors, and then hit B for bucket, or I guess it's not B. B is brush. What's bucket? Is it K? No, what's bucket? I have to find it. It's G. Okay, so I'm just going to paint this black. And then one thing I'll probably do is just go to filter and find like noise, or maybe stylize, or something cool. So I can add some noise here. And you can see it's very subtle, but it adds a nice little bit of texture. And so I can do something like that. And then another thing that I might do is transform this layer. So I could do Control T and then just scale this layer up if I want to make the noise a little bit bigger. So that's something I'll usually do. And then I'll hit Enter, and then I'll zoom back in. So now we have some more detail in the noise. And then I might change the levels a little bit. So I might open up the levels toolbar, so I just hit Control L to open up the levels toolbar, and then I might just kind of like shift these around a little bit to get some different details here. Okay, something like that. And there's a lot of color in there, so I'm just going to go to Image Adjustments and go to Hue Saturation. And I'm just going to desaturate this a lot. Not completely, it's nice to have like a tiny bit of color there. I'm just going to desaturate it. Okay, now I have like some noisy space stuff. I could add some planets in here or some other stars or whatever, but for now that's pretty good. I'm just going to go with that. So maybe I don't need another layer. If I wanted to, you know, maybe I'll just draw a planet real quick just to give a sense of space. So I'll get the brush tool and I'll open up my color palette and do some blue color, and I'll just draw a planet over here like that, and then I'll do a green color and just draw some stuff on the planet. You know, I could draw stuff like that on the other layer just to give myself you know, other stuff to work with, something to look at, you know, whatever. You could also do this in Animate. It might make more sense to do it in Animate. And then I'll just name these things. So this is like space, and this is planet. And so this is all going to be useful when we import this later. So there's my background. I'm going to go ahead and lock that layer so I can't mess it up anymore. I'm going to make my foreground. And so for my foreground, what I'll do, I'll start with my brush tool, and I'm going to choose like a bright random color and kind of draw where I want the ground to start, but I'm just going to use this to create a mask. So I'll draw my like moon surface here. And I'm going to do some ups and downs because I'm going to demonstrate some stuff with this later. You don't have to do it this way, but I want to demonstrate animating the character like this later. And I'm going to make sure to connect all this stuff. And so I'm going to just do this as the ground line. And I might get rid of this later, but what I want to use it for right now is a mask. So I'm going to take my magic wand tool and select this. And then I'm going to, actually I want to select this part. And then I'm going to make a new layer here, and I'm going to apply a mask here. And so what this does is now I can use a brush, and I might like open up my brushes and choose like a cool brush, maybe something like that. Oh, that's not a brush, that's a let's see, maybe this. No, that's still a thing. Okay, here's a brush. Maybe we need some dry media brushes. Maybe this one. There we go. Okay, I'll find something that looks kind of cool to draw some details, and then I'll make a sort of larger size, and then I'm gonna choose a different color, something just kind of grayish, maybe like a tiny bit of like purple or something, and I'll just start to paint on this layer. Oops. Oh, okay, changed my color. Oh, I have to change, okay. No, that's not doing it. I can't see my whole toolbar, so it's a little bit challenging. But let's make sure we're choosing the right colors. Okay, I can't really see what is going on. I just chose a random brush. Maybe that's the issue. It is a brush thing, though. No, there's something weird is going on. I'm on the eraser. Why isn't it giving me brushes? Okay, there we go. Why is it? I can't see my whole interface. This is annoying. Okay. let's see. Okay, let's try this. There we go. But why is it green? Why does it switch back? I'm trying to do that. Okay, there we go. Okay. So I'm gonna paint in. Oh, I was making some marks earlier, but I guess the opacity was on. Anyway, with the mask on, I can just paint wherever, and it's just gonna fit into that mask. That's all I was really trying to show. And so I'll kind of just like paint in stuff here to make the surface of the moon. I'm obviously now what happened? What the? I think I. What the? Okay. Photoshop doesn't like me today. What is going? Why can't I? Did I deselect the layer? Okay, now I don't know what's going on. Maybe I'm running too many programs right now. It doesn't really seem to be doing stuff. Anyway, let's. Okay, now I. Okay. It's just like. Okay, I don't know what's happening, but it's not responding very well. So let's go ahead and save this, and then we'll just use this as our example. Sorry, I think I have too many programs open. I'm gonna try closing my other programs. Okay, let's go ahead and save this. Okay, so I'm gonna save this as my background and save. And I still can't. It's not It's not doing anything right now. So I'm not really sure what happened. Maybe if I close this and reopen it. Okay, there we go. So okay, let's just finish this up real quick. So I'm making my moon surface, and then I might, do some more stuff here. Like I might add a layer, and let's just go ahead and fill it in with some noise. So I'm just gonna do my default, and I'm gonna fill in some noise here, and I'm gonna go to filter, go to noise, add noise, do something like that. Maybe something like that. Hit OK, and then I can change the blending mode here if I want to just add this to the surface of the moon a little bit. Let's do overlay, or no, that's a little. Yeah, overlay is good. And then we're gonna want to have the mask as well. So I'll just hit W, which usually will. There we go. Let's go to my magic wand tool, grab this, and then mask that as well. Drag it up there. Okay. Oh, I messed up this. Let's. Okay. Let's just fill this in a little bit. Okay, that looks bad. Sorry, I was having some issues with Photoshop. Anyway, now we can get rid of this ground line, and now we have our nice moon surface. Although it looks like, why is this? Did I draw on the background by mistake? I thought I. I don't know how these brushes got out of the mask, but whatever. Photoshop really doesn't like me today. I'm just gonna save this. This is gonna be my background example, and what we're gonna see, hopefully, maybe What do you mean? Oh yeah, the mask is messed up. Let's. Oh, I think I must have been painting the mask. Okay, let's delete this mask. Let's get our ground line back. And select that. And then mask again. There we go. Okay. There we go. Okay, so we've got our moon surface. It doesn't look perfect, but that's basically what we want to go for. We have a couple different layers now, and so we can export those separately. We can do different things with those, and there's a few things that we'll be able to do once we get into After Effects and put everything together. Okay, so that should have been like a 5-minute example, but that's okay. We'll try to go through the rest of the stuff.